Welcome to Surveying Lectures by Civil Thinking, and this is our first class on surveying in civil engineering. Now, before I move on, I suggest you to please watch the video lectures on surveying one by one as in the playlist so that you understand better. The playlist link is in the description, or also you can click on the pop-up on your screen. Now, coming to the today's class. Now, as you can see, I have already made the content for our today's class and I have published it in my website. You can access my website at this address, civilthinking.com. Okay, so the lecture is already made there, and let us see about this. Okay, so now the first class we will be talking about the definition of surveying. Okay, so what is basically surveying? So as you can see, so let us read and then I will explain. Surveying, now commonly known as geomatics. Okay, so we also nowadays recently we frequently use geomatics term for surveying. Okay, so if you see somewhere geomatics, this term, it means surveying. Okay, now this is a recent term. Okay, nowadays it is used interchangeably with surveying. Okay, but before this was not the case. Okay, but nowadays, especially in the United States or United Kingdom, Canada, okay, they have, even the universities have started calling it geomatics. Okay, geomatics engineering or geomatics. Okay, so basically it is just surveying. Okay, now what is surveying? Surveying is basically what it is: the art and science of figuring out the position of different pointers either above, on, or below the surface of the earth. Okay, so if we have the surface of earth, and when you try to find out the position of a point, if the point is above the surface of earth, below, or on it, if you want to find the coordinates basically, or the position of that point. Okay, so that is a primitive definition of surveying. Okay, now of course, because the surveying has advanced, we have more advanced definition. Okay, but anyways, that is not I think important. Okay, we can stick to this basic definition. Okay, but keep in mind there is even more advanced definition. Okay, for this. So it also involves setting up these pointers wherever where they are needed. Okay, so let me explain you this. Okay, here. So what is surveying? For example, if we have a point, okay, for example, this is a point. Okay, maybe let us say this is surface. Okay, this is surface of earth, surface of earth. Okay, so this point is above, right? This is above. This point is what? This is above the surface of earth. Okay, so it does not matter if the point is above the surface of earth, or maybe it can be below, it can be below the surface of earth, right? Or it can even be like, it can be actually on the surface itself. Okay, so beneath the surface of earth or above it or on it, it does not matter, as long as you do one thing. What you do, if you try to find the position of this point, okay, the location of these pointers. Okay, so that is basically called as surveying. Okay, that is, again I am saying you, that is the primitive definition. But in the new definition, not only the surface of earth is included, even the space. Okay, space. Okay, even the space, if you try to find the position of the objects in space time. Okay, try to find the location, the coordinates of the different things in the space, that comes also in the surveying. Okay, in the modern surveying. Okay, and remember, we also call it as what? We also call it as geomatics. Okay, okay, so this is recently. Okay, so nowadays we also call it as geomatics. Okay, now not only this, there is one more point here. It also involves setting up these pointers where they are needed. Okay, so what does it mean? So now, for example, if you have some data, okay, you have some data of pointers above the earth, on the earth, or beneath the the surface of earth. Okay, now you are trying to locate those pointers actually on the earth. Okay, so that is also the surveying. Okay, so let's move on. So this was the definition. Okay, now In my website I have also added some simple explanation. Okay, so let us see it, look at it. So now these simple explanations, okay, so if you are going through my website, okay, so these simple explanations are for those who are very much new to the surveying. Okay, so it makes things, this simple explanation makes things a lot simpler. Okay, so let us read it. Think of surveying like drawing an accurate map. Okay, so it is saying, you can call the surveying as drawing an accurate map. Okay, it helps us knowing exactly where things are on the earth. Okay, so yeah, that's right. So when you do the surveying, okay, when you have the survey of an area, okay, you know where the things are, right? So whether it's a building, a tree, a road, or even a hill, it's like going giving every place on earth an address. Okay, so surveying is something like you are giving every object the area under consideration. For example, you are doing surveying in a in a given area. Okay, so it is like giving every object in that area an address. Okay, so it is like that. I mean, it is not exactly like this, but it's kind of explanation. Okay, if you are new to the surveying. So, okay, now let us see what earliest application of surveying. Now in the past, surveying was mainly used for measuring and marking the boundaries of land that people owned. Okay, so this was the first kind of earliest application of surveying. What was the earliest application of surveying? It was to measure boundaries of the land ownership. Okay, because for example, some people own the land. Okay, they needed to mark the boundary. Okay, so if I show it here, so for example, let us say this is land. Okay, and if we divide it into like maybe these four things. Okay, so for example, the person A, this land is owned by this person A. Okay, now this land is owned by, this slice of land is owned by what? Person B. And this slice of land is owned by person C, and this is owned by person D, right? Now what the earliest application of surveying was, what earlier application was, that people needed to mark these boundaries, right? Because these were like kind of boundaries, right? So these were often the reason of conflict between people. Okay, because people fight over these lands, these boundaries. Maybe the B will say no, the land, my land is not here, my land is for example here. Okay, similarly the A might say this is not my boundary, this is my boundary. Okay, so this is also included in my land. Okay, so people kind of needed these to mark these boundaries, right? Okay, they needed to mark these boundaries. So that was the earliest application of surveying. So with the help of survey, they will do what they will do, they would mark these boundaries. Okay, so these boundaries denote what? They denote the this much of land belongs, I mean these boundaries denote the land ownership, right? So this was the earliest application. But as we know, as time passed, as years passed, more applications were added to surveying. Okay, so it was not limited to only marking the boundaries. More and more applications were added. Okay, because as the population, as our human population evolved, what happened was like we needed more and more, the value of the land increased. Okay, maybe initially the application, when we mark these boundaries, it was not accurate. Okay, I mean it was maybe it was slight, like rough. Okay, but it didn't matter then. Why it didn't matter? Because the land was lot, the human population was little, right? But as the human population increased, okay, so the value of the land increased, right? When the value of land increased, even a small inch matters. Okay, a small inch of land, a small foot of a land, a small piece of a land matter, right? Because it had more value. So we needed, it was the need of the hour, that there has to be a precise measurement. Okay, so surveying needs to be improved. Okay, so because of this need, the surveying was improved. We introduced different devices in surveying, so that the accuracy of the surveying is increased. Okay, So I hope you got this point. Okay, so let's move on. Now, why surveying became more important? Okay, now what the question is, why the surveying is important. Now, as time passed, people started using surveying for some reasons. Some of them include creating different types of maps. Okay, so with the help of surveying, you can create, like kind of topographic maps of different areas. Now, the surveying also helps construction workers follow exact line and slopes for buildings and grades. Okay, and then making survey measurements are very accurate because land is expensive and valuable. Okay, now I already touched this point. Okay, now let us talk about these 2 points. Okay, now these 2 points are what? These 2 points are creating different types of maps, okay, and helping construction workers follow exact line and slope for roads and buildings. Okay, now what is it? Now creating different types of maps, because in the surveying we create different types of maps, like the topographic map, cadastral maps, hydrographic maps, or planimetric maps, or photogrammetric maps. Okay, so these are the kinds of maps that we produce, and we will see each of them one by one. So don't worry, this is just an introductory class. So let me write here. So what are the maps which we get from surveying? We get topographic maps, we get cadastral maps, we get hydrographic maps, okay, we get photogrammetric maps, etc. Okay, we will see all of these. Okay, so these are the kind of maps typical that we get from the surveying. And also let us talk about this point now. Now surveying is also important in construction. Okay, why? Because with the help of surveying, what we get, more precise line and grade, okay, slope or grade, okay, for roads and buildings. Okay, so let me explain this part here. Okay, now let us say this is, for example, you have a road. Okay, you want to construct a road. Okay, now a road, if you look from the top, okay, for example, it is like this, right? Now this is the top view. Okay, now if you look from the side, okay, there is also, for example, if this is ground level, now the road have some places it have a slope. Okay, we call this as grade. Okay, we call this as grade or slope. Okay, and the exact line, okay, for example, this area, you have to, this is the plan view, and you have to create a map, or a road like this. Okay, so we call this as line. Okay, the line of the road. Okay, this is the road, and when we look from the side, okay, and then we get the slope. Okay, so with the help of surveying, we get exact line, okay, and exact grade. Okay, and it is only possible when we do the survey. Okay, and with the help of this data, the contractors use this data to construct an accurate road. Okay, similarly, we do the surveying for building construction. We also need the surveying there to mark the exact boundaries and the exact location of different components. Okay, so basically we also need the surveying in the construction. Okay, so in the construction, surveying is basically the first step. Okay, so let's move on. Now let us talk about environment. Okay, now what is the use of surveying in the environment? Now surveying is also used to keep an eye on our environment. Okay, for example, we can use satellites, aerial photography, okay, track changes in forests, rivers, and cities. Okay, now we also use surveying what in the environment, right? In the environment. Okay, so earlier it was not possible, but because of the advancement in technology, so our the surveying equipments have improved. Okay, For example, we have more number of satellites now. Okay, so the satellites, what they do, they are circling, they are circling around the earth, right? And they keep track of different resources on the earth. Okay, not only this, we have aerial photography, where where we get in the planes. Okay, where we get in the planes, and we also survey different areas. Okay, now this has become a global thing. Okay, earlier it was not possible because we didn't had precise equipments. Okay, we didn't have that much of satellites. Okay, now because of the improvement in the technology, the surveying equipments are also improved, and now this has become a global thing. Okay, I mean to say almost all the countries, okay, almost they have their own technology, and they have the satellites, they have these aerial photography equipments. Okay, so it has become a global thing. Okay, so we can exactly watch where is for example a river. Okay, so we can keep track of the river. Okay, where is the position. Okay, not only this, we can also monitor the changes in the these resources. For example, if river is this, for example, let us say the river was in 1 year river was like this, maybe in the next year, for example, the river was only this much. Okay, because the humans, there is a bad side of the humans, that we are unfortunately depleting our resources. Okay, we are polluting our resources, we are doing the, for example, deforestation, and all those things, we are doing the bad things to the environment. Okay, so what we can do, we can also monitor the changes in the resources. Okay, for example, so we can also monitor the changes. Okay, so this has become possible now because of the improvement in the surveying technology and technology overall, right? So with the help of survey, this was one more application. As I have told you before, this was not the part of surveying, but right now this is also a part of surveying. Okay, so now the surveying also includes the monitoring of the environment. Okay, the resources. Okay, so this is about environment. Now let us move on. Okay, so we talked about this. Now modern advancements in surveying. Okay, now what are the modern advancements in surveying? We have already talked much. Okay, now with the with the improvement of satellite technology and use of powerful computers, okay, surveying has become faster and more accurate. Okay, it helps us manage natural resources better and make smarter decisions, okay, about how we use land. Okay, so I have already talked about this. Because of the improvement in the technology, right, now we have surveys, it has become a global thing. Okay, every country have their own equipments. Okay, so we can better process the data. The powerful, the computers have also improved, right? So we can process a lot of data in the computers. Okay, so anyways, the thing is that we have the improvement in the surveying equipments. Okay, and because of this, we are getting more and more precise, we are increasing our precision in the surveying. Okay, so I think that's it for this class. Okay, so we will come in the next class, and until then, if you have any doubts, you can comment. Okay, and if you need any help in surveying, feel free to contact me. Okay, so that's it for today. See you in the next class. Thank you.